Pleasure. Well, let's talk about this. Pleasure opens this Friday. It is from Neon. Neon is one of the smaller indie. Neon, I would describe as kind of like an A24, right? In terms of when you see the movies that Neon puts out, they put out some, like, I don't know if you saw Titan. Did you see that? Did anyone see that?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk about Titan for a minute.
And they did Apollo 11. I mean, they do everything: documentaries, horror, drama. I remember they did Apollo 11. They did Biggest Little Farm. Titan is another crazy one. I think they did one of the pig documentaries. What do you want me to talk about?
Well, just talk about that movie for a bit. Like, what were your thoughts about Titan? Because some people were very disturbed.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. It's the appeal to me for Titan was the story. It just goes in this really bizarre direction. It's about a girl who is severely injured. She has a titanium plate put in her head, and she becomes essentially a psychopath. And she exacts revenge on some very horrible people. And then while she's on the run, she sort of, and she's a full-grown adult at this point, becomes adopted by this fireman. And then they start this really odd relationship. But because not only does she get adopted by the fireman, but she poses as a man. And so he thinks basically he's raising a son. And like I said, this story just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And to me, that was the appeal, because you just have no idea where it's going. And these twists and turns just get crazier and crazier.
Well,
did you see it? Or
I know everything about it. I know everything about it. I know it. That's all I'll say. But Neon is a distributor that puts out movies that are very challenging and risky. Let's just say that's probably the best way to describe it. And this movie Pleasure, let's launch right in. I would describe this as, put simply, it's kind of the female Boogie Nights. Does that make sense? It's set present day about a girl who comes from Sweden, and she wants to be a famous porn star. That is her goal in life, is to be a famous porn star. So,
that was good. Okay.
So she wants to be a famous porn star. She's from Sweden, and she is sort of figuring out how to get involved in the industry. And it's very shocking from the very beginning. Like, there is a shocking shot whereas Boogie Nights kind of almost didn't. And I want to say, like, this movie, it's they don't show sex, right? They don't show graphic, right? But it is dances right up to that line. There are some, graphic stuff in the very beginning where you see she's fully naked, taking a shower and cleaning herself. You see her go to an adult film set, and she's being questioned about what her, boundaries are and whatnot, and things she'll do and not do. It goes through many of the mundane things of being involved in the present day adult film industry. There's a lot of paperwork to fill out. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of showing what it's like to be on a film set. And the woman who directed it, I think her name is like Ninja Thunberg. Is it Thunberg? Yeah. Her first name is Ninja, and it's pronounced Ninja. That's her name. So she worked on this movie for like a decade. It was she did a short film and then sort of developed this into a feature. It played Sundance a couple years ago, now getting a theatrical release. It's really shocking, and it's about the present day adult film industry. And there's nudity of all types. You see men, women. There are real adult film actors that appear in the film, not as themselves necessarily, but just as, they're people in the industry. What surprised me most about the film was that the acting is really good. The woman who plays the lead, she's really amazing in this part. Apparently, the director looked for someone, because this is not like something where it's just like, hey, can you be in this movie? Yeah, it's about an adult film actress. You can't just go and do that. That's not like a simple thing that you can go and do. So she searched everywhere to find someone who would be capable of doing this. And it's about, and what I do like about the film that it does, it sort of shows this world without judgment, right? It shows the difficulties of being involved in the present day adult film world, how there's a lot of stuff that's kind of boring about it, like like lighting and this and whatever. And there is sex. That's people have sex in the movie. In terms of actually having sex, they didn't. I'm fairly certain they didn't.
It's not hardcore,
It's not hardcore. Yeah, just to be clear, this is not hardcore sex. You don't see that, but everything but showing that, meaning characters are having sex, but one can assume that they're not actually doing that. Yeah, I was this movie I found kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
I found it very disturbing, and part of it is this movie does something that's like a real cliche in a lot of indie movies that I find a little overused, and that is using music in a way that contrasts events you're seeing. So for example, I think Quentin Tarantino did it in, he did it in Reservoir Dogs. It's a scene that's like, hey, you're playing like a happy song, but someone's being tortured and having their ear cut off, right? It's that kind of thing. So there's this opera music that plays throughout the film that's like very glorious and beautiful and whatever. And then what you're seeing is just disgusting, right? So, and I'm not a prude, right? Like I'm not a prude when it comes to porn. People know I wrote for Hustler magazine back in the 90s. I was a comedy writer. I wrote jokes for Hustler. That was fun. It was a fun job. It's like almost my first professional job. That's how I sold Film Threat to Larry Flint. There's a story one day to be told in a documentary coming out a year from now or so. But this film I found very disturbing. I have a lot more to say, but I want to hear what your thoughts are, Alan, because you saw, before I did, when Sundance was virtual. I was actually at a screening last night with the director and the cast in attendance. And I don't know if we want to show clips at all because I shot a little bit of the Q&A. I'll leave it up to the chat. Yeah. And I'll let them vote if they want to see clips from the Q&A or not. I can show it. I shot like 4 clips. I feel like sometimes this is one of those things where I feel like the Q&A kind of ruined it for me. So because I feel like there's a weird, you know what? Let me talk about it after. I want to hear what your thoughts are, and then I have something to say about these types of art films that take a look at the porn industry. But what were your thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, I would not liken it to Boogie Nights in the sense that it's not a commentary about, as much as it's a commentary about the porn industry. I'll say it. Let me just say it this way: it's neither pro porn or anti porn.
Exactly.
It's just taking a woman and her experience, and I think when it played at Sundance, I did watch the Q&A afterwards, and the director, she was very adamant about portraying the story as real as it can and without commentary in terms of right and wrong of porn, but to kind of just show what the porn industry is. And it's one of these weird industries where it's I think people have a glamorized view of it until they get into it, and then they realize that this is not something they want to do necessarily for the rest of their lives. And you really get that sense in this movie. The director really worked hard to be accurate, as accurate as possible. And I think she doesn't show a lot of the warts of it, but I think she does show the emotional impact of people who are in this industry and what it kind of does to them over time. I mean, because the lead actress, the character is very enthusiastic about wanting to be in porn. There's one disturbing scene that is just still in my mind today about this movie, and I think that really says what this movie is about. And again, what I like about indie films, especially from Neon here, it's a story that I can't believe it was told at all, and told this way, and that's what I appreciate about this movie.
Well, I'm in two minds about it. It's interesting to see a take, and it's a view of the modern adult film industry, which is very different than Boogie Nights. I only compare it to Boogie Nights because it's the story of, Mark Wahlberg's character, sort of his rise to stardom. And that's pretty much, the only point of comparison, right? And also Boogie Nights, I would say, is funny, and it doesn't focus that much on the porn scenes. This really is focused on the porn scenes, like a lot. So the problem I have with it is that Sundance and a lot of film festivals have an obsession with porn. And by that, I mean, this is one of many either documentaries or films about the adult film world, but it's from an artsy standpoint, right? Like, it's like, hey, we're gonna like take this sort of indie film view of the adult film world, but at the same time, there's salaciousness behind it, right? Like it's like, I can't tell you how many, and there are a lot of them, that like documentaries that have played both at Slam Dance, at Sundance. Sundance showed a documentary once about this 300-man gangbang and tried to pass it off as like this very thoughtful feminist documentary, even though it was made by a guy who, he said his main influence was Jerry Springer. So I kind of feel like there's this weird thing in the indie film world where they kind of want to like, let's look at this documentary about the porn business. But it's like, then there's this like, it's an excuse to see, nudity and adult content, but in the context of we're studying it and it's societal. It's just like, no, you're spending a lot of time with adult stuff.
Yeah. So I think this is a little bit different, or what I appreciate about it is the fact that I think porn stars, when they watch this movie, it will feel familiar to them. It doesn't feel like they made things up. But at the same time, it is definitely not pro porn in that way.
No, it's not pro. It doesn't really take a stand pro or negative.
But it doesn't shed it in a good light saying, hey, this is the industry you may want to consider,
Well, I think it shows it in a realistic light. Yeah. I mean, I know people who have been in that world. I'm friends with Annie Cruz. Do you know who Annie Cruz is? No, Annie Cruz, look her up. She's famous for something she did on Howard Stern that I can't actually
describe,
talk about. But Annie Cruz, I met at San Diego Comic-Con and LA Comic-Con, and Annie I've known for years. She's a huge nerd. She's a cosplayer, and that's where I know her from. And she's a good person. So there you go. Annie Cruz. Follow her on Instagram. I want to go to some of your chat questions before, and if you are interested in seeing the clips from the Q&A last night, I could share a couple of those with you. I don't know if you want to see it. I'm going to leave it up to the chat. Let's go to the things that are starred here. Alan, thank you for that. Son of the Red Fox says it's not in Nymphomaniac art house crazy film though, right? Yeah, it's not Nymphomaniac. No, this is I would say more. Toxic Waltz and Showtime Late Night was my first, had HBO too. Emmanuel early 90s series was my fave. Yeah. Here's sort of the dark secret about HBO. The thing that built HBO was adult stuff. There was that show called, do people remember this show? Excuse me. Should I just burp on the thing, or I try to mute myself when I burp, and now I'm thinking like maybe that's a bad thing. Anyways, there's a show called Real Sex.
Oh yeah.
And this Real Sex show built HBO. Sheila Nevins, who was the executive in charge of reality programming at HBO, and I met her at the Sundance Producers Conference. I was working on a movie at the time. I had a project I was working on. I got invited to the Sundance Producers Conference, was very happy to be there. It was great. And got to meet and have a conversation with her. And she just flat out, she doesn't care. Like a lot of people, when you see them, when you see people from the entertainment industry speak publicly, they're almost always bullshitting and lying. I mean, I'm just telling you straight up. When you see these junket interviews and you see there's Sam Raimi and there's whatever, it's all sweetness and light, whatever. It's all fucking bullshit because they're selling a movie. That is the purpose of those things. And that's okay. That's fine. Know that going in. Having said that, when people get behind closed doors, they'll just tell you the truth about the industry. They'll know bullshit. And Sheila Evans was I pitched a movie that I really wanted to make. And then someone made a movie that was similar. And I was like, fuck, I can't make that movie, or maybe I'll make it a different take on that, because I don't think that movie turned out very well. But Sheila Evans was there and she said, look, what is it? Is it adult or whatever? She flat out admitted that all the stuff like Real Sex or G-string divas, those are wildly popular on HBO. This is before HBO became HBO Max. Those adult content late night on HBO, huge amount of views for that. Real Sex and G-string divas, which helped her finance, say, a Spike Lee documentary about New Orleans. So her whole thing was like, is it social issue or is it sex? And she didn't care. One makes money, the other one doesn't. And she was no BS about that. And I really respect Sheila Evans for that. And she helped build HBO to what it is today. Spidey Sensei 72 says the Annabelle Chong movie. Absolutely. That was the movie. It was at Sundance. I remember I got in a near argument with the publicist about it. And it was like, to me, it felt like a movie where someone went to college, took a couple classes on feminism, and then tried to weave that into a story where it was an excuse to talk about a 300-man gangbang. It's the Annabelle Chong movie. And what's the name of it now? Alan, can you look it up?
The wrong person.
Can you look it up? Can you look it up and put it in your Google history, Alan?
Yeah.
Annabelle Chong movie, Sundance.
I'm almost afraid to. I was afraid to Google this.
Script Doctor says, I remember a show called The Real Girlfriend Experience that tried to be artsy. It did not work. Yeah, but it's also like this salacious view, but it's safe because I'm not watching porn. I'm watching Boogie Nights. I'm watching the Annabelle Chong documentary. I'm watching, there's a bunch of others that I could name, of like documentaries about the world of adult content, or Real Sex, right? Which talked about a lot of different things. Shelby AC says, I just finished Star 80 and reading about the Dorothy Stratton story, which is just so sad. I need some distance before seeing something like Pleasure. I agree. Pleasure opens this weekend in theaters. It opens Friday.
It's not as disturbing as Star 80.
Definitely. Yeah, this doesn't have like a dark end in terms of, I mean, there are dark things that happen, but
it's handled in such an interesting way, which
it's handled in I would even say it's almost a hybrid documentary / narrative film, because the director freely admits that she was kind of finding the story, and the ending of the film, which I won't spoil, she kind of just like they came up with it like on the set, like that's how the movie should end. They had a different ending planned, and then they went with the ending that is in the film, which I actually think works for the movie. So there you go. Bethel Games says, Alan, no woman can be in prawn for the rest of her life, because at a certain point, this is just desecration of mummies. I have 2 words for you. Nina Hartley. All right, let's move on. Holy Hand Grenades says, no penetration shots, 2 thumbs down. Patrick Lemire, Boogie Nights was oddly about a make-do family structure. That was part of it. And you get glimpses of that in this. Eric K. Thank you, Eric K., for dropping by. Smash that like and show your love. Appreciate that. Bethel Games says, no DP, no view. Well, can I just tell you something? There is a scene that has what you're looking for. What's really bizarre about it is how technical the scene is.
Yeah.
And Alan, why don't you discuss it?
Well, I'm not going to, I mean, you have to, okay, I'll just say this. There is this moment that was very disturbing to me. It's, I would imagine this is how it would have been handled on an actual porn set if it actually happened. Right. And I think you get that a lot in this movie, that it's like when you've talked about working at Hustler, you talked about like some of the protocols and stuff that happened that you wouldn't expect Larry Flint to have installed. There's a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, it's what's interesting that I found, having been a comedy writer for Hustler and directed photo shoots, I'll just say that it's very technical and it's oddly very professional. Then when I worked for other companies that make other kinds of entertainment, you hear the things people say, and I'm like, oh man, that never would have flown on the set of a Hustler production. Melodic Method, good to see you back. Is this more of a commentary on what society demands / will tolerate, and how we are losing our anchor on this kind of thing? There's I won't say that. I'll say this. The one thing, the movie's not preachy.
No, not at all. Yeah,
it's not preachy. It's just presents, and this is how all movies should be, in my opinion. Because I get offended if something's like sort of preachy stuff, and it's like very, very preachy and in your face. This movie doesn't do that. It allows you to think for yourself and come to your own conclusions. Matt W., an artsy porn film. It's not a porn film, but it's definitely an independent film. It's artful, and it is about the world of adult, the creation of adult entertainment. Bethel Games, more disturbing than car sex? I don't know, Alan, you tell me.
Oh, I think they're talking about Titan.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty creepy. I mean, that's just where the movie got weirder and weirder. And it began with the car sex.
There you go. Script Doctor, wait, from your description, is Pleasure the movie that A24 had but dropped? I don't know about that. It's possible. I mean, distributors change. This movie did come out, or came to festivals in 2020, right?
Yeah, it was not this year Sundance, but
2021. 2021. Yeah. So it played Sundance 2021. It may have, because distributors do that, right? I mean, it just happened.
It feels neon, though. It feels very neon.
Yeah. Toxic Waltz N8. My porn name would be Woody Spruce. First pet name, street you grew up on. Fourth 1000. Lol, Greta, how dare you?
Oh no, there's a
Boogie
comment
Nights.
before that's
Toxic Waltz N8. Boogie Nights was based on me. Tell us more. And then Alan, this is good. Josh Levesque says, what's that below your face, Alan? Wait,
I know. You need to get rid of this.
Reach your hand down.
Yeah.
I'm totally leaving that up there.
We're going to get kicked off of YouTube.
You think so? Like, yeah, what would get us kicked off YouTube? Would this, I mean, we're talking about this film. Neon has its own.
No, I think it's this background photo here.
No, that's actually the thumbnail from Neon for the trailer. Seriously. Okay, so like, look, Neon also has its own YouTube channel. The trailer for this movie is on YouTube with that thumbnail. We're just using the thumbnail graphic as our background. I'll fight YouTube on that. And
by the way, did you like the movie, or I don't think you?
I'm mixed. I'm mixed. I found it very disturbing, and I feel like it is the thing that I found a little condescending about it is it's like we're going to take a very serious look at this. Well, at the same, it's sort of like you're making a movie that sort of examines exploitation while showing exploitation. There is a lot of nudity and sex in this movie. Not graphic sex, but there are. We've seen penises in movies before. You know, I'm trying to think of Bad Lieutenant. Okay, has some penis in it. In this, the penises are ready to go.